So over the past few years, whether we like it or not, Google has been claiming that Gemini is the future of the company, and it's coming to more and more places over the next few months. Cars, wearables, and your TV. And if you want to know more, well, yeah, stay tuned. We're going to get into it right here in this video. Hey, if you're enjoying these insights or you want more insights or more of this good stuff, then do me a solid and hit that subscribe button below. It really helps the channel grow, and it means you won't miss out on the next deep dive into Gemini or anything else Android and related to Google. Cheers. So as part of the Android show, Google went out ahead of Google I/O and confirmed what we all pretty much expected. Gemini is coming to more form factors. Let's get this boring stuff out of the way early though, as there is some retreading or at least confirmation of stuff we already knew. Namely, that Gemini is coming to Android TV and Google TV sets and devices very, very soon. It was unveiled back at CES, but I'm not sure many people even saw that or were aware of it. I actually didn't see it in person, and I was sort of lost, or this information was lost to me among other notable things, at least in my day-to-day life. Plus, we now have a better look at what it's going to do, how it works, and basically is always a nice thing to see, especially when things are expected to arrive on our favorite TV platform. Let's roll back a second though and fully explain what Gemini on Android TV is, how it'll work. So this is a portion of just what's coming. There is more work to be done to add what is effectively going to be a Nest Hub-like experience to Android TV and Google TV. That is happening, and naturally that helps elevate Gemini into more a home-centric position, I guess. You can tell this year is consolidating, and they have slowly edged out the Google Assistant on a lot of their form factors, which probably was always going to happen anyway. Gemini is going to go way beyond those assistant voice commands that you're probably already using on your TV, because it's just better at understanding context. It can process your requests much faster, and I do think it's just an overall more competent AI from a recognition standpoint, which is I do think where the assistant often falters, especially if, like me, you want to ask for a show and it never really catches or quite catches what you've asked for. So back at CES, Google demoed an early version of Gemini on Android TV. The company said it wasn't fully replacing the assistant, but this sort of screams that it will. It's pretty obvious that they're going to do this in future, but there isn't any further details, at least at this time, of this video going live. It would make a lot of sense, and it could be a bit of a game changer if it integrates into services in future and lets you get even more contextual cues or information about what's on screen, just like those Astro-powered functions of Gemini Live, at least that we've seen on phones. Hopefully we'll get this on Android TV sometime later down the line. The only timeline we have for Gemini on Android TV, at least at this stage, is later this year, so stay tuned. I'm excited to see how this one progresses, but it's one of those form factors that I think will probably benefit from Gemini at least the most, as far as I'm concerned. Another expected addition is Gemini to your wearable, which is confirmed as coming to Wear OS in the coming months. Like a lot of these things, it's very much a bit broad about when it's going to arrive. We actually spotted this a while back, and yet it's another obvious expansion from your phone to your TV and now to your wrist. Thanks to strings in a version of the Google Assistant app, of all places, we know that at least in terms of capabilities, Gemini will be able to do things like set alarms, timers, message your contacts, and more on top of that. The functionality is basically unchanged from the Google Assistant, and it remains to be seen whether the Gemini on your wrist can access more advanced capabilities like maybe Gmail, Google Maps, and all that kind of jazz. Watches aren't all that great for typing on, so the fact that you can just talk naturally rather than awkwardly type on your screen with that basically scrawny keyboard is going to be great. I think at least it's something that I'm looking forward to, and that might be another nice time saver, especially, as I say, Gemini is just better at contextually aware cues, how it processes your language and all that kind of thing. We do wonder as well how this is going to affect battery life though. Having voice controls enabled with the assistant can be really taxing, as it waits for that activation phase probably all the time, or it's checking every few seconds, so it's technically always listening. Gemini is likely going to work the exact same way, but processing is going to be taking place elsewhere rather than on your wrist, so a data connection will always need to be active as well. If you have an LTE version, that might cause some problems, but most people are probably using Bluetooth anyway. I'm not the kind of person who likes to talk to the watch, but this might be something I will do, as it will save a lot of time typing, something I don't like doing on most smartwatches, which I think is fair, as it is something a lot of people detest on smartwatches because it is really finicky despite being better than it ever has been. Hopefully, Gemini will be that much needed upgrade, because small screens definitely feel tailor-made for voice controls just due to those size limitations. There's no extra details shared on where Gemini capabilities currently will stop, so I'm sort of hopeful we'll get something akin to Live on this form factor, at least some point in the future. It will be really cool and a really neat sci-fi way to talk to your watch. Another new place where you'll get to see Gemini this year is in your car, provided that is you have Android Auto support or Android Automotive, which, to be honest, I have a lot to say about, but I'll save that for another time. So finally, we're going to have a voice assistant that is really fit for moving vehicles, because if I'm honest, the assistant in cars, well, I think it's probably degraded the most of the past few years, at least in my own opinion, as someone who has an Android Automotive vehicle. Google is touting natural conversations, which is what I'm most excited for here, because it's great while you're driving, as you're not having to worry about specific commands or having the assistant basically shout back at you because it doesn't know what you're asking it to do or it doesn't understand. That is also really frustrating. So Gemini, as you expect, will be able to do more complex tasks, like even ask for a charging station on the way to the post office. It's also near a park so that you can go for a walk while your car's charging. If that works, based upon what they're telling us here, then that's exactly what I think a lot of us want from an in-car voice assistant. Definitely goes beyond that as well, with the ability to do things like summarize incoming text messages, emails into snapshot key points. I think it's pretty cool that you can set language preferences as well for replies. So this is going to work in up to 40 languages. So when you reply to someone, you can set it to reply in a specific language, and Gemini will remember that and reply in the language you've chosen. That even applies to more broad tasks like movies, books, and even a little rundown of reviews for places you're visiting if you need it to. So yeah, this looks one of the most promising expansions of Gemini that I've seen over the past couple of years. Gemini is also going to be available first on Android Auto, as it is technically tied to your phone. That'll be available in the coming months, but it is set to expand to automotive vehicles, or Google built-in as Google's calling it, later this year. There isn't necessarily an exhaustive list of those cars out there, so yeah, stay tuned, we will provide you with details on that when we find out more. The final bit of Gemini news that Google shared with us was for Android XR. So Google wasn't specifically clear on how Gemini would look, at least when Android XR was unveiled just before the turn of the year. I'll be honest, I think this new vision of what Gemini is going to provide on XR screens, or basically AR, it looks really, really clean. It's probably the cleanest I've seen Gemini look. All of the other stuff that I've spoken about is practically going to apply here. Gemini is going to be fully capable from the get-go on those, is it augmented? Yeah, augmented reality goggles, basically as you expect, with voice activation, pulling up what I think I'd consider the best combination of Gemini Live and Google's updated floating pill design for Material 3 Expressive, which they have just unveiled as well. It looks really, really clean, and it doesn't look all that obtrusive like maybe the assistant can be at times. You can do the screen shared Astra powered function here as well, but I guess it already has a camera facing capability, but live on your wearable. Is it a hair wearable? Whatever it is by default. I think it looks great. I'm excited to get to try this out for myself, as Gemini is going to be really, really integral to that Android XR experience, as it is something that is practically built for it. So yeah, there are a few places here Google is showing us where Gemini is going to go over the course of 2025. I'm excited to see how it develops. Once we get Gemini in these new form factors, it's going to make a big difference. I think Gemini just needs to be more places. And yeah, Google can take it from there. What are you most likely to use Gemini though on, if at all? I know a lot of you don't use Gemini. I think it's one of those platforms that you kind of have to force yourself to use, and then once you start using it, it starts to become second nature. Let me know though what you think down in the comment sections below. Are you excited for any of these? Yeah. But until next time, cheers for watching, and I will speak to you later.